Peace. All right, let's change gears a little bit.
We're gonna switch gears.
You speak very highly of the young brother or the brother by the name of Shorty Black,
Yeah,
and he had some influence on you coming up
yeah, he did.
on Farmers Boulevard.
He did. Yep. Farmers Boulevard, North Side.
What
Piece of the rocks. You know who you are.
being that he was out in the streets and doing this thing that way,
Yeah.
there's probably some type of dichotomy that's there because you see him doing wrong, but maybe some of the things that he's teaching you about life and just about code and honor in general are right. So, what can you say are some of the specific things that he shared with you? And then maybe some of the things that you learned secondhand by just doing it out.
Doing it out, observing him. Shorty Black, our praise is due to him. Like I say, he was a brother that I went to school with at Andrew Jackson High School in the early days in the 80s. He was a part of the football team. And before I became a Flower Center, there was a big rivalry between the football team and the guards. And we fighting every day, all that. And I'm looking at, remember, at this part, I'm like still in the mix of Zulu Nation, and I'm trying to figure out, well, who am I really here? Because I'm getting infinity lessons, I'm getting lessons by observing. I'm all over the place at this point. But Shorty Black, was a part of the official Farmers crew that consisted of a few brothers in our neighborhood in the North Side. And, LL lived off of Megan in the back. I lived on 113th by Little Giant, and these brothers would be at a spot by a bodega at what we call the Rock, the Marcus Garvey Rock. It's still there. We do Farmers Day every year now with my brother, Chef Primo, and all of them. And at that time, in the early 80s, when I was coming up, Shorty Black, Divine, Freddie Love, Little Ronnie Bump, who unfortunately got murdered, and many others in that corner used to be at a store called Chat's Fish Store, for those who remember. And I learned through Shorty Black was that you don't got to do what I'm doing. You can do better, right? Hence code. Be loyal to what you need to do for yourself. This life that we chose is the life that we chose. You ain't got to choose this. You know what I mean? We chose this because this is what we do, and we got to deal with the consequences that come with this, right? And this is why you have rivalry between Baisley, Linden, Laurelton, and Springfield, and we would call ourselves crews, or in some sense, family, right? And that family word was used as a prison term. Yo, what up, family? Because of things that we go through as a family. You know what I mean? I've been to prison, not long enough to say I did a far, 10, 20 year bid, but enough to know that that wasn't for me. Not because that, you make mistakes, you end up behind bars. You have to pay the piper, right? Nevertheless, Shorty Black became a Muslim later on in his life. Took a shahada for what I remember, for what I understand. Had a young son with a sister named Jackie that lived down the block from us. Right? I think she's still alive. The son is still alive, but he's passed away. And he taught us, a lot of the young brothers in that neighborhood, to be always, again, on lookout. Make sure you handle your business. Make sure you be a man. Make sure you do things. Now, he did a lot of things that wasn't right, unfortunate to say, because again, at that time, a lot of drug dealing going on, a lot of things going on. And again, this is not me saying nothing that I don't know for facts. These are facts. The Chat Fish Store was a very prominent area in our area when it came to that drug thing. You know what I'm saying? You had the official, I'm talking about Ronnie Bump, the official man who was given the reins by Pops Freeman, who was a part of the Genovese crime family. A lot of people didn't know that, but you learn the history about who these folks are. And he decided to pass on to Ronnie Bump, and Ronnie Bump became someone very prominent in our neighborhood off of Farmers, right? Farmers Boulevard was a very primary location for many things, I came through, lightly. I ain't gonna lie, I sold my little drugs, my little weed at the time. And, even I did a little crack thing at the time, to try to make, money. But I realized through Shorty Black's ability to share what he discovered, and I've had some fatal things happen to me in that game. I was selling weed for a Jamaican guy. His father, the brothers, it was a friend of mine we grew up with named Leighton. For those who remember this story, his father was a guy that came from Jamaica, and I remember I was selling weed, trying to make money, and he gave me this on consignment, and I fucked up the money. I went to his house to explain. He put a gun in my face, getting ready to shoot me. You know, I was a little afraid. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little afraid. Like, damn, yo, I'm gonna fuck the money. This man's gonna kill me over some weed money. You know, so I remember telling Shorty Black that he said, well, if you didn't know how to get rid of it, you should have never took it. Because once you take it, nobody want to hear no excuse about what you can't do. In other words, have people that's gonna get that money off, because once the people put that shit in your hand, they don't want to hear what you couldn't do. They want that money back. So he taught me, like, yo, you know what I mean? You don't want to sell for nobody. If you're gonna do it, sell it for yourself. That way you ain't gotta answer nobody. You know what I mean? And I started doing that little bit by little bit. I was doing my little hustle here and there. I wasn't no big notable drug dealer, but I did my little thing to eat. And then that's when, again, I started getting more involved with the 5% and learning from Supreme Mind and Law Real. And then I learned that Allah went into the military. After reading that he went into the military, I said, you know what? I don't want to get caught up with none of this shit. And I left in the military. But because of Shorty Black and his means to share with a lot of young brothers, yo, brother, if you do this, there's a life that you're gonna have to deal with. But you don't gotta do this, you have an alternative. You know what I mean? And many of those brothers who were doing that with him, some are here still, and some are not here. Some are still doing what they've been doing to this day, right now. If you go to Farmers right now, some of them that we grew up together are still there doing what they've been doing. That's not to tell on them or to rat them, that's the reality. They handling their business, whatever that business is. I don't know, but we know, right? You gotta do what you gotta do, whatever that is. But the point of the matter is Shorty Black was a very prominent figure in our neighborhood. Him and many others, Sleepy and, Chat, who returned, and many others who gave us some sense of, damn, they on their hustle, they making money, they got all the girls, they got all the jewelry, they got, they riding in dope cars, and we wanted to mimic that as young people. But like Supreme.
But they never glorified the shit, though.
They didn't glorify it. No, it's just like I said on the bill that you did. Remember, Supreme Mind told me, stay away from that shit. Because, yeah, they hyping and hoopering and all that now, but they ain't gonna be around. And remember I showed y'all, if y'all saw his bill that he did on me when I took him to the desert many moons ago, I took him to 150th Road in Jamaica, Queens, showed him what the drug dealers were all around here. And Supreme Mind said, yo, leave that shit alone, don't follow that. Because if you do, you're gonna end up like that, either in jail, dead, or an addict. You'll become an addict, because you wanna be a part of the program. You start sniffing it, and a lot of brothers did that. You know what I mean? So yeah, Shorty Black was, definitely salute to him, man. And he was a part of Mike Tyson's, crew at one time. And he would travel with him when he was boxing and all that. You'll see him shouting, Allahu Akbar, all that with Mike Tyson. So he's one of those type of brothers that we wanted to mimic. Like, yo, that's a real brother. Not to say be like him, but to, have that stature. You know what I mean? And he taught, many of us a lot. He definitely taught me a lot, and all praise is due to him. Shorty Black and the whole Farmers crew, the official. I'm talking about the official Farmers crew. You know who you are. And, we remember, I remember a lot, about what happened back then. And salute to my North Side soldiers and generals out there at the Rock. You know what I mean? 113th and Farmers, that's where I got my knowledge and wisdom. You know what I mean? And many things learned on Farmers, you know what I mean? Kind of like that commercial. We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, Farmers, man. Farmers Boulevard got a lot of history to it, man. 113th and that whole strip got a lot of history to it,